Hey everyone, welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels. Today we have Marley with us ready for another exciting class. And today we'll be crocheting the Caron Mosaic Motifs crochet blanket. My name is Lillian from Yarn Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. So feel free to ask questions in the chat here and we'll be sure that Marley answers them. And while we're getting started, feel free to let us know where you're watching from. Over to you, Marley.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces in here. Hi, Vicki. I love it when you come in and you wave at me. So much fun having you here for another Michael's Community Classroom. As Lillian said, my name is Marley Bird. I am a Stitch Ambassador for Yarn Inspirations. I'm a knitwear and crochet designer, YouTube host, mother to 3 kids, and a wife to a very understanding husband. Mosaic crochet, that's what we're all here to learn, right? I want to talk about a couple things before we jump in with the pattern, which, by the way, should be provided in the chat. So I think Lillian or Kelly will have that link in the chat so you can follow along with the pattern today. Or if you are catching this on replay, make sure you grab that pattern so that way you can watch along with me and, work along the way as we do this motif. Now, we are making a mosaic motif today. So as far along as I can get in the class time period. I do want to preface this with a little bit though. I'm pretty darn experienced with mosaic crochet in general, and I've done it quite a bit back and forth. And my first thing to you is if you've never done mosaic crochet before, one, this probably isn't the best pattern to start your mosaic crochet journey. I would probably do something more along the lines of a straight back and forth mosaic. I actually taught a class on that, I think last week or the week before, I cannot remember, but we do have free patterns available for that on yarnspirations.com. And I think it's also the video can be found here on Michael's. And so that's my first thing. Now, does that mean you can't do this? Absolutely not. That does not mean you can't. It just means it might be a little bit more challenging to you. So, because if you don't have a basic understanding of what mosaic crochet is, this entire motif, because we're going to be doing mosaic in the round, can be a little bit intimidating because it's a lot of chains, a lot of things happening that you might be like, I just don't understand. So there's that. The second thing is, even if you are familiar with mosaic crochet, I do want you to remember to give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself. The first motif might be the first pancake. Do you guys know what I mean? Like when you go to make pancakes in the morning, you make your first one and it's kind of like, it's a little all over the place, right? But by the time you get your second and third, like the pancakes are nice and round and they look great. This first motif might be your first pancake, and that's okay. We'll use it as our practice, and we're going to be patient with ourselves. And remember, we all can't be perfect at the start. All right. So today I already have my Ogo opened up, but I am using the Ogo Big Donut yarn, and this is available at Michael's. This is amazing yarn. So we're using so it would be 4 Ogos of the main color, 2 Ogos of your contrasting color 1, and 2 of your contrasting color 2. So it's 4, 2, and 2. For today's demonstration, I'm just going to use one of the Ogos, and I'm actually going to use just a solid color of a different yarn, just so you can see the 2 different colors going along nice and neat here on camera. Okay. So if you guys are ready to go, I do have an eye hook here. That's just a basic old Susan Bates hook that has a handle. Nothing big deal about it. You can use any hook that you want to get the gauge that you need for your pattern. All right, Kelly, let's go ahead, go down to our hands. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. So right here, I've already printed off my pattern, and I do like to keep mine usually on the computer in a digital format. So that way, when I get to the design, the motif, the diagram, I should say, the motif diagram, I like to be able to blow it up really nice and big. It helps me to see it better. But as I am working on a project, I'm old school. I like to print it out. I like to be able to take notes on it. But this is the pattern you will be following today. And so, like I said, it's the Mosaic Motifs Crochet Blanket. Each one of these squares is an individual motif made in the mosaic technique. Down here, of course, those are the colors that you will need. They have a different designation for each of the colors as far as a letter designation. So that way you know what letter or what color to use for each square. I'm not going to worry about that too much here. There's a lot of abbreviations here that are pretty familiar, okay? The one that you might not know is the mosaic double crochet. And so the biggest thing with this is that when you do mosaic double crochet, we're going to crochet down in front of the chain spaces. And that's a very big deal. And that's a big difference between mosaic and like spike stitches or something. You work in front of chain spaces. Now that kind of just probably can't even see it now because it's a terrible highlight color, but in front of the chains, and that's going to be very important. We are not going to work around the chains. We're working in front of the chains. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. This is the trickiest part of all the mosaic. Okay. If you haven't used an ogo before in the different colors, I know there's a lot of videos out there showing you how to take your ogo apart. So I'm not going to go over that too much. We know how to change colors with the last 2 loops of the yarn before the color change on our hook. We can do that. Each motif has only worked with 2 colors, pretty easy. You can read through all of these notes yourself. And then as far as the motifs, this is a breakdown of how many you make for each color. All right, you guys with me so far? Motif instructions. This is what we want to follow along, and we're going to get as far as we possibly can here in the time frame of the class. You can see this particular pattern, it goes up to a page 4, but it goes all the way to the 19th round is where the end of the mosaic round is. I know we won't get that far, but we'll get as far as we possibly can. And like I said, it does include a stitch diagram if you like to follow along with stitch diagrams. Now, the biggest thing here with this stitch diagram is it only shows 1/4 of the motif, right? So we'd have another one here, another one down here, and another one right here. So it might be a little tricky to look at it maybe for your first motif, but maybe your second or third or whatever, it might be easier to look at the diagram and understand what you're doing. All right, okay. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna start at the very beginning. I debated getting started a little bit before you, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start here at the start. So it says that with color 1, and I'm going to skip over here and see, I think my color 1 is supposed to be right there. So my main color, contrast 1, contrast 2. So color 1, main color. So color 1, it just tells me to use color 1. And then over here, it tells me to do color 2. So you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to use blue. We're going to use blue for the first. And it says with color 1, we're going to chain 4. So I'll put a slip knot directly on my hook. I'm going to chain 4. I'm assuming you know how to do a chain if you're in this class. So I'm just going to chain my 4 stitches and I'll join with the slip stitch to form a ring. So I'm going to come up here to the very first chain, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that through the loop on my hook. So I've created a nice little chain. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to create the center of our motif. If you've ever done like granny squares and stuff, it's very similar to that. So we're going to chain 3. And that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So you do want to remember that. If you are somebody who likes to use stitch markers, you will want to put a stitch marker into that chain right behind the loop on your hook. And remember, you never count the loop on your hook as a stitch, okay? So you'd put a stitch marker in that loop right behind the loop on your hook. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets all into this ring. So we don't have to fight by going into any of the chains. We simply put our hook directly into the ring and we will do 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2 and 3 double crochets, and we'll do that a total of 3 times. So we'll chain 2 and now we'll do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So that was 1. We have to do that a total of 3 times. Chain 2, 1, 2, and 3. That was 2 times. So 1 more. Chain 2, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we did that 3 times. Now this might be something you've never done before, but we're going to join with a half double crochet into the top of our first double crochet. Now remember, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we've marked that. So we're going to yarn over our hook, go into that stitch we marked, or the third chain of our turning chain, right? Let's go into the third chain of our turning chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. So you look like this. Okay, everybody see that? We yarn over and we draw through all 3 loops on our hook. What this does, you guys, is it places the loop on our hook in the proper position that we want our loop to be in to get us started. It just makes it's a different type of join than a slip stitch join. I actually use this quite a bit when I do granny squares and such. So it's a very common way to join, to be able to have the starting loop in the correct place. Now, what will happen here, and you'll notice this on round 2, we are going to chain 1, and then we will single crochet around the post of this half double crochet. So literally you're treating this half double crochet as if it's like a chain space. So you just go into that half double crochet and single crochet around. Okay, it's really that easy. Now that single crochet is the start of our round. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it just to kind of try and be consistent for us to know where we are. So I single crochet around the post of the half double crochet, and then it says single crochet in the same space as the joining half double crochet. Well, that means I put my joining half double crochet right there, right? So I'm going to put a single crochet right there. You guys with me? Now it says 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 double crochets. So I'm going to go into each of the next doubles. I'm going to do a single. So there's 1 and 2. And now this is the pattern. This is the part in the pattern, guys, where you see there's an asterisk. So whenever there's an asterisk, that's a clue to you that's like, oh, when it's time to repeat, I'm going to be coming back to that point. Okay. Now, another thing, whenever you see instructions all inside parentheses, it tells you that everything that's inside those parentheses, you're going to do it either in the space or the stitch or whatever it is outside of the parentheses. Okay. So we're going to do a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet all into the next chain 2 space. So in the next chain 2 space, here's the space right here. So I'm going to do a single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and a single crochet all into that space. And then it says 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. So into each of the next 3 double crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. The pattern now says we're going to repeat from star. So we know the star is up here. So all of this right here that are in these parentheses, that's our corner. So if you can look at this here, we can see, oh, look, we've already created 1 corner. We're going to create a corner here, and we'll end up doing a corner over here. So into this chain 2 space, we will do a single, chain 2, and a single. And then we single crochet in the next 3. And we repeat again. So I'll do a single, chain 2, and a single. One, 2, and 3. So it says repeat around 1 single crochet around the post of the double crochet. So we're right here again. So we'll do a single crochet right there, right? It's in the same area that we did our very first one. And then we are going to join with a half double crochet. Again, this half double crochet into this first single crochet, that's going to essentially take the place of a chain 2. So I went into my marked stitch, I'm working a half double crochet. And if I set this down, can you see here, these chain 2s are our corners. And by working that half double crochet right there at that corner, it gives us a corner stitch without doing a chain 2. Okay. So notice we do this, it puts our loop over here. Whereas if we did a chain 2 and join with the slip stitch, it would put our loop over here. You see how it puts our loop in a different place? That's one of the reasons you do this half double crochet. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? No?
Hey,
Marley. Doesn't seem to have, no one doesn't have any questions at the moment.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat.
Okay. So one thing I want you to notice here is at the end of round 2, you can see here it says join color 2, do not break color 1. So we aren't going to cut our color 1, but with this half double crochet, we want to now join our new color. So I'm going to undo this last draw through of the half double crochet. All right, so I'm going to undo it. So I'm back to where I've pulled up a loop. I'm dropping my blue. I'm going to make sure I leave a nice long tail. Okay, you always want to leave a nice long tail you can weave in. Grab my new color, yarn over with my new color, and draw through all of those with my new color. Okay, so now my new color is on my hook. It'll be the color I'm going to use next, and everything's great. All right, okay. So we're coming up here to round 3. And just a reminder, I know I'm going relatively quickly, but I want to make sure I get through as many of these rounds as possible. You can always catch the replay when it's posted on the Michael's YouTube channel, where you'll be able to pause, rewind, and do all the fun things. Hopefully this will be really helpful for you. Okay, so I have my color 2. I'm going to start off with a chain 1. Then it says a single crochet around the post of the joining half double. So the same thing here, I'm going to do my single crochet. I'm going to move my marker. Okay, move my marker. And it might be that you don't need that marker, and that's totally okay. Markers are there for you to use. It's totally at your discretion. Okay. So I did a single crochet around my half double. Now I do a single crochet in the same space as the join. So right here, we know that. So I'll do the same space as the join. And it says 1 single crochet in the next single crochet. Right? Now, here's our star. Now you guys are gonna have to bear with me here, because as I'm talking and crocheting and reading all at the same time, sometimes I get a little bit lost with the words. So I need to make sure I am where I am. So I chained 1, I single crocheted around the post, I single crocheted in the same space as the joining half double crochet, and I single crocheted in the next single. Here's my star. So I know at some point I'll be coming back to this. Okay. So here I go. I'm going to chain 2. I'm just going to put that there so I can hide it from myself. I'm going to chain 2, skip the next single crochet. So I'm going to skip this one. Okay. And I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 2. So I'm going to single crochet here and single crochet here. Now, those of you who have done mosaic before, you know that what we're doing is we're setting up our stitches for our mosaic, because where that chain 2 is, when it's time to change colors again, we will be working a mosaic double crochet down here into that skipped stitch. Okay. Now, just a little word of wisdom, guys, when you do mosaic crochet, you always chain 1 more chain than the number of stitches you're skipping. So for this example, we're skipping 1. So we've chained 2. If we were skipping 2, we would chain 3. If we were skipping 3, we would chain 4, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So one of the biggest reasons for that, because somebody always asks me, is this allows for this, I'm going to call this a float. I'm going to call it a chain float, to go behind our double crochet and not pull in too much. It allows our crochet to still have some flexibility without being like Kevlar. All right. That's why you always do the 1 extra chain over top of that extra stitch. Now, yes, I might be over explaining to you guys, but I want you to understand why we're doing that. Okay. It's at this point that I can see I have a double star. Now, if you've never experienced, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, quick question on that. So we are getting asked, is your tension loose or tight?
On my actual work? My actual work is,
yeah.
Okay, it's all right. So I have all of my stitches. If you guys notice, I always keep the loop on my hook the same size as the hook I'm using. So for me, I mean, it's not necessarily tight by any means because I'm using a larger hook. But if you're somebody who doesn't keep that loop the same size as your hook and tends to tighten them up, you don't want to do that. You want to keep your tension the same size as your hook. That's the whole reason all of our hooks are different sizes. So if you keep the loop the same size as your hook, and as you're working through the stitches, everything will come out just fine. But do not tighten up those chains. Don't make them super tight. That's not good at all. Okay. Does that answer the question? Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does.
Yes, thanks so much.
Okay, good. All right. So when you come up to something that says double stars, you might be thinking, well, okay, Marley said the single star means that's where I repeat. What's the double star? The double star indicates a point at which maybe you're going to repeat all of this, it says right here, repeat from star twice more. Then you're going to go from star to the double star only once. So that means we're going to repeat 2 times. But when we get to the third repeat, we're not going to complete a full repeat. We're going to stop when we get to that double star, okay? So that means right now we don't have to pay attention to the double star. It's only when we get to that point where we need to stop at it, okay? So we've done the single crochet in the next 2. Now we have parentheses. What did I tell you about parentheses? That means everything inside those parentheses, we will do it either the number of times or in the stitch or space indicated outside. So for this example, it's the 1 single crochet, 2 chains, 1 single crochet, in the next chain 2 space. Well, we already know that's our corner, right? That's going to be pretty consistent through the whole thing. That's our corner. So what's convenient is we're up to our corner. So that's great. We can kind of check on ourselves, right? I want to make sure that I've done this right. I have. All right. So I'm going to do a single, chain 2, and a single, all in that corner. Right? So corner. So we know this is half of our corner completed. 2 singles, we have a skipped stitch, 2 singles, here's our corner completed. Okay, in the next chain 2 space. 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 single crochet. So let's do that. So there's 1 and there's 2. And now it's repeat from star. So we know it's chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2. And then we're at our corners. This is where we do our corner. So we'll do a single, chain 2, and a single. And then we do 2 singles. So that was 1 repeat. Now we're going to do, this is our second repeat. So we chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2. We're at our corner. We do a single, chain 2, and a single, and then a single crochet in the next 2. Now this is where our double star is going to come into play, okay? So we go back to the start. So we go back to our star, but we're going to stop at the double star, which will be where we need to be anyways. So at the star, we chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2. Brings us right up here to the end of our work. Okay, so that ends at the double star. So now what you're going to do is you will single crochet around the post over here. So we're at the corner again, right? So we're going to single crochet. And then we're going to join with the half double crochet. So I yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on my hook. Okay. You got that? All right, we're moving on to the 4th round, guys. We did not change colors, so we're still on the same color. So we're going to work around here with the same color. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my marker since we already know where that was. And round 4, we chain 1, 1 single crochet around the post. We know that's a start, so I'm going to put my marker right there. If you don't know where I'm putting my marker, it's literally in what's like the V behind the loop on my hook. Okay. Now it says 1 single crochet in the same space or stitch that we had our half double crochet join. So there's 1. And then it says 1 single crochet in each of the next 2. So here's 1. And here's 2. Now we have a star again. I'm going to circle it just to be consistent with you guys. So here's my star. So that lets me know this is where I'm going to work my repeat. So I'm going to chain 2, skip the next chain 2 space, and 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So those of you who've crocheted a while, do you understand what we just did? We just essentially did exactly what we did the row below, except we've increased a single crochet over here and increased a single crochet over there. So that way our square gets bigger instead of becoming a cup. So we have these chain twos, they're right on top of each other. So those of you who've done mosaic crochet before and you've flipped it back and forth, this row is sort of like what I usually refer to as like your relief row. It's your relaxing row where you essentially just, if it's a stitch, you stitch into it. If it's a chain, you chain over top of it. But when you're working motifs like this, you have to compensate for those increases also, okay? And those increases are worked in the corners, right? That's so we have the single crochet in the corner. This third single crochet here that we just did, it was in the first single crochet that we did in our corner of the previous row. So when you're working in the round, you're always increasing stitches also. So this is a really relaxing round in that we don't have to like set up where our chains are going to go because they're just literally going right on top of the old ones. But we do have to remember to work those increases. Now, all of that is already done for you in the pattern, so you don't have to think too much about it. But again, I like to make sure you guys understand why you're doing what you're doing instead of just telling you what you're doing. It's important to me. All right, so there's chain two. And then here's my second single crochet. You see that I just did my corner, right? So all that is in the corner. And then I'm supposed to do one single crochet in the next three. So 1, 2, and 3. And then this sets up my repeat. So if I don't even look at things, guys, essentially I'm going to put chain twos over top of all my chain twos. I'm going to put singles in each one of my singles. And then when I get to my chain two corners, I'm going to work my corner, right? I'm not even going to look at the words. I'm going to show you. So I chain two because I see chain twos. Then I'll put a single crochet into each one of the single crochets I see. And if they were doubles, I'd be put them in doubles also, which brings me to my corner. I know in my corner, I'm going to do a single, a chain two, and a single. And then I know I'm seeing 3 double crochet or 3 single crochets here. So I'm just going to single crochet into each of them. Now I'm not at a corner, I'm at a chain two, but it's not a corner. So I know I just chain 2 to go over top of it to get over here to these single crochets and work into those. Does that help you guys kind of understand the repeat and keep going with it? I hope. I'm at a corner, do a single, chain 2, and a single, and I'm just going to keep going around till I get back to where my marker is, which is a corner, right? So here's chain 2, skip my chain 2, I'll single into each one of these singles. That would bring me to my 2 stars. So I will single crochet into my half double crochet, or not into, but around the post. And then I will end with my half double crochet into that same space, but I'm going to be changing colors here. Okay. So as I yarn over and pull up a loop, I'm going to be dropping my gray and picking up my blue. All right. Remember, I didn't cut it because the instructions specifically said not to cut it. So I'm just carrying up my blue just up here, just like so on the back side. And I'll yarn over and pull through with my blue. So now my blue is the next loop on my hook. I'm going to set this down. I'm going to take a second and see if you guys have any questions because I haven't been able to look at the chat as I've been going. I've just been going along trying to make sure I get through as much as possible. Lillian, how are we doing?
We're doing great. We do have a question here from Patricia. She asked, when you crochet around the post, would you be able to bring it close up to the camera? Because she feels a little bit confused about that part still.
Sure. So I'll undo this one and I'll do it again.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no problem. So right here, I'm at the start. Okay, this is where my start was. This was my very first single crochet. This underneath that single crochet is literally my half double crochet. So when I talk about around the post, it's nothing more. It's literally where you see that space. Like if you see where the very first single crochet you did, you see it's like just a space there. You're just going to be putting that in there. So I will yarn over with my gray, put it into that space so it looks like one of the corners. And then, oh, no, I apologize. I'm not yarning over. This is for the single. So I'm going to do a single right here. Apologize. And then, so now that looks like just a chain 2 corner. And then now I finish with my half double into my single, pull up a loop, but I'm going to change colors because I have to use my new color on the next round. Typically in mosaic crochet, you guys, you will use the same color for 2 rounds and then you switch colors for the next round. Because on this following round, we're going to be working those mosaic double crochets in front of all those chains that we created on the edges of our motif. Okay. All right, y'all, we are on round 5. Let's get to it. Let me move this one out of the way. Oh, don't fall back behind my desk. Okay.
Can I ask? Oh, sorry.
Yes. No, you're good.
Can I ask a question about carrying the yarn up the back? We have a question here asking, so the blue yarn is visible in the back for about 1 centimeter or so when you carry it up. Is that right?
One more time. The blue yarn is carried up the back.
Yep, for about 1 centimeter or so.
I don't know how long a centimeter is. It's about 1 inch. It's whatever. I mean, I guess it's a little bit less than 1 inch. It's just, it carried up of these 2 rows, but that all depends on your gauge too. Like, I don't know what my gauge is, but it just carries up just like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it carrying up, you guys, you can cut it each time. Like, I'm not a fan of carrying up my color, but I know that some people, you know, they don't want to weave in on your ends, but that's not the way the pattern's written. If it were my pattern, I would be cutting the color each time, but that's me. So I'm just going to leave it for now because that's the way the pattern's written. Okay. All right. You guys good? Are we good, Lillian?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So round 5 with color 1. So we're back to my blue. I'm going to start with a chain 1. Single crochet around the post. So here we go, Patricia, one more time. This here, that's my double, that's my half double right there. Okay. It's just, that was my half double. I'm literally just going to go into that big space there. Okay. Just going into the space. And it's like, you're just like encompassing the body of that half double crochet. Okay. All right, so I did that around my half double. Now it says to chain 2. Now we already know what that means. If that chain 2 isn't in a corner, we know that that's going to be a setup for another mosaic double crochet for the following color. And you'll see here, this is also where we have our star. So we have a chain 2. And then we're going to skip the next stitch. Remember, we chain 2, so we know we're only going to skip 1. So we skip 1 stitch, which happens to be the same stitch that you joined with your half double crochet. All right, so it's that same stitch. So we're going to skip that one. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 single crochet. So I'm going to go into this one here. I'm going to do 1 and I'm going to do 2. And now, did I say that right? I'm going to make sure I'm going through right. Chain 1, single crochet around the post, 1 single crochet in the same space. Nope, see. Okay, this is why I have to talk through. I skipped a spot, y'all. All right, we're going to go back to this part. We did a single around the post. I do a single where the half double crochet join is. I'm sorry, I forgot. I missed that when I was reading through it the first time. Single crochet where the half double crochet join is. Now I chain 2, skip 1, and then a single in the next 2. That looks better. Okay, you guys see that? Now we're going to do our very first mosaic double crochet. We've spent all this time building for it, but now we're going to do our very first one. Now, don't let this word scare you. Don't let the word mosaic double crochet scare you because it's just a double crochet, but we're going to do it in front of those chains. All right, you ready? Yarn over your hook. Come down here all the way down to the stitch that you skipped. It's going to be the same color as the yarn you're using. Go into that stitch and then bring your hook up in front of those chains. All right. You can actually pinch those chains and move them out of the way for yourself if you want. All right. So now you're only going into the stitch. Can you guys see that? Let me show you all this again. There are my chains. I'm going to pinch them and get them out of the way just so I can see the top of that double crochet I skipped or single crochet I skipped. I'm going to go into the top of it just like I normally would. Yarn over, pull up a loop just like I normally would. And then do a double crochet just like I normally would. When I unpinch my fabric, my my chains that I skipped essentially, that I worked in front of, are just resting behind it. I completely ignore them. Okay, so I completely ignore them. All right, so once I do working in front of color, this is a very long explanation to describe what I just did. So we skipped the next stitch. We single crocheted in each of the next two. It says working in front of color 2 mosaic double crochet. So, or we worked in front of these two, we mosaic double crocheted all the way down here. Okay. Now it says 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 single crochet. So make sure you don't go into your chains. So we're going to do 1 single into the next 2 singles. There's 1 and there's 2. Then we chain 2, skip 1, do a single in the next, which brings us to a corner. We know what to do in a corner. We're going to single, chain 2, and do a single. Okay. And then we're going to do a single crochet in the next single crochet. And that brings us to our star. So I'm going to set this down. What you can see here, let's use this. Here is our mosaic double crochet. All right. It's in front of all those chain 2 gray stitches that I had in front, or they're behind this double crochet. This double crochet is not worked around them. See how they're just there on the back. So it's not a spike stitch. Okay. And it's not the type of mosaic that works around these, because there's a different mosaic that works around these. This one does not. You leave those alone. But see how flexible the fabric is? And it's because we left the 2 chains instead of just 1. We skipped 1 stitch, but we made 2 chains. And that's where I told you, you always do 1 extra chain than the number of stitches you skip. And it allows for that flexibility. All right, so we're gonna do it again. We also know, just kind of as I pointed out, we also know that as we've done this one, we've also prepared with chain 2s for when we go back to our gray. We'll actually be doing a mosaic double crochet down here into this skipped stitch in front of these chain 2s. All right, so you're preparing, you're working and you're preparing on those first rounds. Those first rounds are a little bit tricky. When I say first rounds, I mean the first round with the color. All right, so we're going back to star. We chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2, chain 2. Oh gosh, not chain 2. Mosaic double crochet, come all the way down here, again, go in front of those chains and just work a double crochet. You can pinch those chains out of the way if that helps. Then you're going to single crochet in the next 2 singles, chain 2, skip 1, single in the next one. You're at your corner, you single, chain 2, and single in the next stitch. So that's 1 repeat. We're going to do that again. So chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2, mosaic double crochet. It's just a fancy word for saying double crochet into that skip stitch 3 bows below. Then you're going to do a single in the next 2 singles, chain 2, skip 1, single in the next, single in the chain 2 space, chain 2, single in the chain 2 space, 1 single. So that was our 2 repeats. So this is where it would be repeat from star until you get to star star. Okay. So we chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 2, mosaic double crochet, there's a single in the next 2, chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next, single crochet into that around the post. It's actually just in that big hole. Okay, and now we're going to finish with the half double crochet into the first single, and that finishes our round 5. How's everybody doing? I know I'm going really fast. I apologize. I want to make sure I get as much in this as possible though for all of you, so that way you can get along without any problem. Okay. All right, Lillian, I'll expect you just to jump in if there's any questions. I'm going to keep on going so I can keep them going on this. So I want to make sure they get through as much as possible.
Sounds great, Miley. Yep, everybody seems to be doing good.
Great. All right, so on round 6, we're not changing colors. So what you're going to notice here is all the odd number rounds, you end up changing colors. And on the even rounds, you use the same color you're on, because that's sort of our relaxing round, remember? On this round, you're going to essentially end up single crocheting each of the stitches that you see, whether it's a single or a double. And whenever you see the chain 2s, you're going to chain 2 over top of those when they're on the side, but you're going to treat the corners the same. All right, so here at the start, I'll read through the instructions too to make sure I'm using the same words. We'll chain 1 to begin, single crochet around that post. I'll show you one more time, Patricia. I chained 1. That's my half double. I'm literally just going to go and single crochet around it. Okay. Then I single crochet in the same stitch that I joined. And then single crochet in the next single. And now this is my repeats. Chain 2, which we already knew, right? Because there's our chain 2 and it's not in the corner. So we skip over top of that, and then we'll single in each of the next 5, 2, and this is in right into that double crochet, right? 3, 4, 5. We're going to end up chaining 2. Come over here and single in the next 2, 1 and 2, which brings us to our corner. So we'll single, chain 2, and single. Got it? Single in the next stitch, and that's your repeat. So we'll keep on going. Single in the next, chain 2, single in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 2, skip over that, 1 and 2, single in my corner, so 1, chain 2, and a single, 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 chain 2, skip my 2, 5 single crochets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 2, skip those, single the next 2. See how it just gets a little bit bigger each time, so each round takes a little bit longer, just like any other motif. Brings me to my corner, single, chain 2, single. Almost done with this round, y'all. Hopefully you are too. I don't know about you guys, but I am fascinated with mosaic crochet. I've been fascinated for a little while now. It's just one of those things that I think is fabulous. I have a lot of patterns on my own website that I've done this, and it's just exciting. All right, so I'm at the end of my round where we know I'll do my single right here, and then I'll join with my half double crochet into the first single, but I'm going to be changing colors. So I'm going to drop my blue, pick up my gray, yarn over, and pull through with my gray. Let's take a peek of what I have here. Now I'm going to tell you guys something here. This is something I've said a couple times, like in my tournament of stitches. When you do your mosaic double crochets, make sure you allow that double crochet to end up the same height, essentially as the 2 rows that you're essentially making that double crochet over, and the height of the row you're on. If you don't do that, your piece will start to suction in a little bit. So don't get in the habit of like tightening up your double crochets really tight or other things. Everything's going to be sucked in. So you want to make sure all your stitches are the same height as the 2 rows you're skipping, and then make sure your final draw through puts the entire stitch as the same height as the single crochet row you're on. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to try and get through round 7. I think we'll have just, perfect amount of time to do that. I'm going to take a drink of water really quickly. Yes, you can see the back. I'll show you the back. This is what the back looks like. This is why I would cut my yarn each time. To me, if you're going to put all this beautiful work into something like a mosaic, asking you to weave in ends is not too much to ask. So I would not carry my yarn each time. If you guys want to know my personal opinion, I'd make you cut it each time and rejoin, so that you don't have this, because you don't have any other floats going on, right? Because you have the chain 2 floats, but everything looks really clean and crisp. And then you have these floats back. I don't know. I wouldn't have them. There's different ways you can play around to hide floats as you're going and working through stitches. To me, that's just more work than just weaving in your ends, but that's me. So I'll just let you guys know that. You do what works best for you. Okay, round 7 with color 2, we chain 1, single crochet around our half double. And then 1 single crochet immediately has us. Ooh, does this one? Look at this, guys. Chain 1, single crochet around the post of the joining half double, and then it immediately has us do a chain 2. Skip the first single crochet, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 singles. So this one has us immediately chain 2, skip the first single, that would be where we joined, and then single crochet in the next 2. So it's essentially what I tried to do that last time, but this time it really is that way. So we go to the next 2. Okay. Now this is going to be interesting here. You can see here that not only do you have your star right here, but you're going to have an a bracket here too. So we did the chain 2, skip the first single, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2. So this is where our repeat starts, because there's a star and then there's a bracket. So let's read through before we attack it. It says working in front of color 1, mosaic double crochet. That makes sense, right? Because we can see that there's our chains there. So we know we're going to do a mosaic right there. Great. Then it says skip the next chain 2 space, skip next chain 2 space, chain 2, skip next single crochet. So my question here is, it says skip next chain 2 space. Let's stop there for a second. So let's do our double crochet down here, our mosaic double crochet. Then it says skip next chain 2 space. Well, are they talking about this? And they're telling us to skip that. I'm guessing that's what they're saying, to skip this. And then it tells us to chain 2. So chain 2, skip next single crochet. So we're skipping this one, because that chain 2 is going to be a new placement for that one. So we're skipping that one. And then 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we did that. So let's keep going here. So working in front, mosaic, skip the chains, which I think is, anyways, chain 2, skip the next single crochet. That makes sense. 1 single crochet in the next 3. That's what we did. Now it tells us to chain 2, skip the next single, working in front of the color 1, mosaic double crochet, skip next 2 chains. So you know what, I'm gonna cross this out for me, because when I do the mosaic double crochet, I'm already skipping those. Like it's hard for me to understand. That's why I'm gonna cross those out for me. So I'm gonna chain 2, skip this, do my mosaic double crochet in front of those chain 2s. Okay, right? Mosaic double crochets, 1 single crochet in the next 2. All right, chain 2, skip the next single crochet in the next 3, chain 2. There's my chain 2. Here's my skip 1, working in front. There's my mosaic, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2. So this one here. So there's 1 and there's 2. chain 2, 1, oops, I slipped my yarn, hold on. 1 and 2, skip the next single crochet. So we're skipping this one and it brings us all the way over here to the corner. All right, so what did you guys collect there? You collect that even the expert has to go back and check herself, right? Because there's a lot happening. And you might think yourself, well, it's just double crochets and chains and singles. You're absolutely right. But there's a lot going on at this one, right? So just this here, what we see is that, yeah, our very first single crochet we did, right? Our very first single crochet around our half doubles right here. But then we immediately jump into preparing for where our next mosaic double crochet is going to go, right? So we have a chain 2, then we have 2 singles. I feel like there should be, nope. Okay. 2 singles and then the mosaic double, chain 2, skip 1, 3 singles, chain 2, skip 1, mosaic, double crochet, 2 singles, chain 2, and then you're at a corner. So it's like mirrors each other, right? Because here's corners, chain 2, 2 singles, 2 singles, mosaic double, chain 2, and then here's our 3 singles, like if it was like one single, and that's the one right in the dead center. You guys all with me on that? You guys with me on that? Okay. Honestly, guys, when I do a project like this is exactly what I do is I sit down to try and understand what's going on, because the beauty of mosaic is that it's very symmetrical, especially with this one. So you're going to see the symmetry on each side that we begin to work. All right. So here we go. We're going to go to this side. If you want to think about this second single crochet we do in this corner, it's just like it's this first single crochet we did right here at this corner. Does that make sense? It's like this first one. So you can begin to build. So we're going to, if we're looking at symmetry, right? We have chain 2s here. We're going to start off with our chain 2. We know if we chain 2 and it's on the body, we're going to skip 1. So we're going to do a single in the next 2, because we know that's what we're supposed to do with our symmetry. Now we have our mosaic double crochet. Once again, like I said, you guys make sure that double crochet ends up the same height, like it goes over top of those and it ends up here at the same height. Now we can see immediately that we start off with the chain 2, which has us skip this single, and we're going to do a single in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, skip that single, mosaic double crochet over here in front of those chains, single in the next 2. So there's 1 and 2, chain 2, brings us to our corner. So we'll single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. And if it helps you to think, that first single crochet, it's like the very first single crochet you did of your entire the entire piece. We can go again. So we chain 2, skip 1, single in the next 2. So there's 1, there's 2, mosaic double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, single crochet in the next 3, chain 2, mosaic double crochet. When I did that chain 2, I skipped 1 single in the next 2, chain 2, brings me to my corner. I do a single, chain 2, and a single. Last one, y'all. So I'm not going to that first one. I'm going to chain 2, skip the first, single in the next 2. So there's 1, there's 2, mosaic double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, single in the next 3, chain 2, skip 1, mosaic double, single in the next 2. This would be chain 2 and then come to my corners. There's chain 2. I'm at my corner. I'm going to do a single, and then I'll finish with my half double crochet join. And I'm at the end of round 7. Woo! Anybody else feel like they're sweating? All right, so here's the cool thing. I honestly feel like at this point, I've given you a lot of tips and suggestions and reasonings behind all of this that you should be able to carry on without any trouble. Remember, this is a round 7, and the next round 8 is essentially just, you're going to single crochet wherever you see those singles. You're going to chain 2 wherever you see these chain 2s when you're on the body or the sides of your work. And you still treat those corners just like we've been treating them all along. So our even rounds are our easy rounds, so to speak, because you just single into each of the stitches and you chain 2 over top of all the chain 2s, with the exceptions of the corners. It's always on those odd rounds that are a little bit tricky, and you really have to pay attention, because not only are you filling in those gaps from the chain 2s of the previous 2 rounds, right? You're filling in those gaps with the mosaic double crochet. You're also building these chain 2 spaces of where the next round of mosaic double crochets will be made with the previous color. So you have to pay attention really on those odd rounds where you are. And because we're working in a square that is very symmetrical, each round you should be able to put it down and be like, okay, so chain 2, chain 2, chain 2, chain 2. Yep, they're all right there. Chain 2, chain 2, chain 2, chain 2. Yep, they're all right there. Everything looks correct. Like, you should be able to quickly be able to identify if something is off. All right. Do you guys feel somewhat confident? You guys can go back to my face now, Kelly. I want to see how everybody is doing. All right. So give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you're doing. If you are watching this on the replay, once you get your square going, make sure you smash that like button. Let us know. Thank you, Mary Lou. Mary Lou's like, yes, I got it. The Clarks has said that Marley, it makes sense. Thank you for breaking it down. Jane, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Jane's been working along with me. Julia has thumbs up. Oh, you guys are doing great. I'm so proud of you. All right. So I am curious, as you guys are working along on this, whether you're here in the chat or you're on Michael's, let us know wherever you can, like on social media stuff, as you're working on it. Make sure you share with us. Let me know if you carried the yarn or not. I'm curious if you guys are going to be weaving in your ends, or you're going to carry the yarn up the wrong side. I would totally weave in my ends, but that's for me. If you are at all lost, don't forget there is going to be a replay on the Michael's YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch there. You can hit pause. You can rewatch things. Really super convenient. I do have mosaic patterns. If you're very interested in them, I have them on my own website, marleybird.com. At the same time, Yarnspirations has a ton on their website too. It's kind of funny. The designers at Yarnspirations and I, it's like we're on the same brainwave. When we start designing stuff, it's like all of a sudden we're designing the same thing. It's just kind of really funny. But yeah, hopefully you get this. You get the mosaic bug. It's a lot of fun to do once you get the hang of it. And I encourage you to just keep trying to do it. All right, guys, that's it from me. Lillian, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thanks, Marley. I'm just going to quickly drop a link in the chat for anyone who's wanting to check out our full collection of mosaic patterns, so they can grab that. And of course, I've dropped in your YouTube link as well if people would like to see more from you, which I'm sure they do, Marley. Thanks so much for that. But your work, Marley, looked absolutely beautiful. Stunning piece there, and lovely to see everyone's there as well. So thank you so much, and thanks for joining us today, everyone, for this live community classroom with Michaels. Don't forget to share your work with hashtag MakeItWithMichaels and hashtag Yarnspo. And just a reminder that you can find more classes on michaels.com and the recording of today's class at michaels.com/classes. Thanks, everyone, and thanks again, Marley.
Bye, guys. Good luck.